And I think all of the alumni, including especially the ladies here, the women of Notre Dame, I think all of them should feel in their own lives a special claim on Our Lady, because they're Our Lady's lady, if you will. Well, first, let me say to those first daughters, I'm very proud of you, because you vindicated something I only could dream about. I mean, you went out and you made it, and I think, on balance, the Notre Dame women alumni have given a wonderful example in a wide variety of ways. I mean, you are not just executives or people in the limelight as you are, Marianne, but on top of that, your mothers, your wives, your professors, your lawyers, your doctors. I mean, you've gone across the spectrum, the same as the men had before you, and you've had some remarkable successes. And I think you have proved that I wasn't a nut to try to pull this off so long ago. And that's nice. I thank you for that.
Please welcome Carolyn Short from the class of 1977 and the law class of 1980, and a former resident of Baden Hall. Carolyn was an English major as an undergraduate and came to Notre Dame from Edina, Minnesota. She currently resides in Philadelphia and is a partner at the law firm of Holland Knight and the head of their Philadelphia Regional Litigation Division.
Good afternoon, everyone. I had 3.5 hours of sleep last night. I just want to tell you that. I walked into the dorm room that I was sharing with my sister Betsy, who was a year ahead of me at Notre Dame, many of us, and she said, "What in the world are you doing coming in at 3:30 in the morning?" And I had no words. In fact, I had no words to talk to you about. Unfortunately, I was able to do this. So I now have words, 10 of them. I want to talk to you a little bit, and this is going to be brief. I want to talk to you about my family's relationship with Father Ted, my personal relationship with Father Ted, and how he influenced me in the choices I've made in my life. So you heard I'm a lawyer. You can go to my bio and see what I've done. It's pretty boring, but it was a lot. For the last 42 years, I've been a lawyer. I was a federal law clerk. I was a public defender. I was a homicide prosecutor in Philadelphia for 6 years. And then I had to make money to send my kids to school when I entered into the greatest failure of my life, which was a divorce. And then after that, I started to make money. I was in a big firm, and I knew I had to give back. So I want to tell you why I felt that I had to have more in my life than just supporting my family, making money, and trying cases. I've tried over 100 jury trials. And this is why. I grew up in a family of 7 children. We were all about 13 months apart, except the last one, who thought she was an only child because she was 3 years younger than me. We call each other by our number. I'm 6, Betsy's 5. My sister Colleen, who graduated from undergrad and law school at Notre Dame, is 7. She really is bummed by that, but I think she stole my spot, frankly. So we grew up in Edina, Minnesota. My father was the son of a fireman, and he was very poor, didn't have any plumbing or electricity in his home in Minnesota. My mother was a daughter of Irish immigrants. I identify as Irish Catholic, and I am a dual citizen. My mother was one of 6 kids. They lived in a 2-bedroom house in New York City, and it was an apartment. They didn't have a house. And my parents met during the war, and that's how they came together. My father brought my mother to Minnesota. He had been a commander on the Intrepid in World War II, and he was a very, very strict disciplinarian growing up. My mother was also a strict disciplinarian growing up, but we had each other. So let me talk a little bit about why the family issue is important. In 1968, my father was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. He was the treasurer of the Democratic National Committee, I think, in 1968. He was a Humphreyite. Humphrey, Minnesota, my dad, Bob Short, they were very close. And so in that time of racial unrest, my father was taking the platform about racial equality to the convention. He was going to be the speaker on it. And he had, during the year before that, gotten to know Father Ted because, as you know, 1968 August is that convention. May 1968 is when you see Father Ted with Martin Luther King in the picture. So he was very involved in the political statements, and my father became close to him. September of 1968, so he gave the speech at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's another TED Talk, but he was relegated to 2 o'clock in the morning because Southern Democrats didn't want to have the racial equality platform presented at the committee, and my dad gave a speech anyway. He was like, I'm giving it anyway, but they gave him 2 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, so he got to know Father Ted, and my brother, Brian Short, who graduated in 1972, and he's probably not here. I don't know if he's here. I haven't seen him yet. But he certainly wasn't there at 3:30 in the morning when I was there. So anyway, he started at Notre Dame in 1968. And so, 1968. He graduated in 1972. And so then, coeducation comes. My sister Betsy, we've got two older than Brian. One went to Boston College. The next one was at St. Thomas College. The next one, Boston College. Brian was 2, and he went to Notre Dame. And then comes Betsy. And she's one of the people who applied to both St. Mary's and Notre Dame. When Notre Dame decided to just not merge, but to go just with the women as students, she decided to come to Notre Dame. And so I was in high school. My lifelong roommate was gone. I was going to Notre Dame. That was just what it was. So I was a very cavalier person about these things. I was lucky as hell. I've always been lucky as hell. And I really think that it's because of God. And I want to tell you why. This is our graduation day. Anybody in the audience, I'll identify him later. I'm at 6 minutes, so I have to hurry. So anyway, I come to Notre Dame, and of course, having 2 strict disciplinarians as parents, I was the first time I was on my own, able to go wherever I wanted to, and I was not what you would call an academic student. And I think a lot of you people here know that, but especially my sister. So exams are coming, and it's freshman year, 1973, and I'm like beside myself. I can't call my father and say I'm going to flunk out. I can't call my mother and say I'm going to flunk out, although I did call her, say I wanted to come home, and she said, you made your bed, now lie in it. And that's how it was. So I went outside, and I was like, oh, I can't do this, I just can't. And I went to Father Ted's office, because my dad had been saying to me, you're there, I know him, go talk to him. I was like, I'm not going to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk to me. But he did. I went to his office. I remember this like it was yesterday. And it was, how many years ago was that? 1973, 49 years ago? And I walked in, and he was there. It was 6 o'clock at night. He was still at his desk in the library. And I started crying my head off. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. He said, yes, you can. I said, I can't. I wasn't prepared for this. I don't know, these science classes and calculus. I cannot do it. I really was. And he was saying, I know you can. But more importantly, God knows you can. And he let me just cry and cry and cry. And he said, there's only one thing you need to know to pass here, is that God will help you. God will be with you. God will guide you. And I said, really? That's all you're giving me? How about a little assistance, a delay on the test, anything, So anyway, he said, let's take a walk. So I'm still crying, and I'm humiliated, and I think he's going to tell my dad, and he's going to kill me. And we walked to the grotto. And he said, just ask our mother to help you. And so we knelt next to each other at the grotto. There was nobody else there at that time. I don't know why there was nobody else there. Or maybe I just didn't see them. That part is not a memory for me. And we knelt next to one another, and we prayed, and I prayed for Mary to come and intercede into my brain and let me know what to answer on my test questions. Literally. I was like, please, guide my eyes and my ears and my mouth and my hands so that I can go back and read what I need to know for this test. And we were there for about, 20 minutes, something like that, though it seemed like a lifetime. He hugged me and he said, now you've got it. Now you go do the work, and God will help you through. So I passed. Not well, mind you. It wasn't like I was getting any honors, but I passed all of my courses. And I did okay freshman year, not great. But I never, ever forgot that that's all you really have to do. So there's a couple of things that I want to say about that. I would never have thought I would become a lawyer. I would certainly never thought that I would become a successful lawyer. I certainly would not have thought that I could try federal trials to juries and prosecute homicides and be listed in chambers as the go-to commercial litigator for big company litigation. I didn't think I'd be inducted into the American College of Trial Lawyers or the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. I didn't think any of that. I would have laughed out loud. But because I was taught to pray by Father Ted, it really did work. So anyway, let me just jump through here. I graduate from Notre Dame. I get into law school. I'm in my first week of law school, and I get a note from Father Ted. And he said, do you see what a little walk to the grotto can do for you? And I was like, I couldn't believe he remembered. I mean, I'd seen him many times thereafter, but like, hey, or as we were walking down the quad, Candy Francavilla, Sharon Lopez, and some others using what some might consider inappropriate language, and Father Ted's walked around, hello, ladies. You know, we're like, oh, God. So I saw him a lot of times, too, because my father was friendly with him. And it was the greatest decision of my life to come here. And it has affected my entire life. I love Notre Dame. I loved my time here at Notre Dame. And what I have decided in my life next, I'm 66 years old. I'll be 67 in November. So I came here when I was 17. And I see there's 24 seconds left. So I just want to tell you, I have been to Iraq, Egypt, South Africa, and many, many other countries, helping the judicial system learn how to deal with due process rights for displaced persons. That's one thing I do. I have been a big sister for 6 or 7 years. I was a treasurer on the Red Cross, et cetera, et cetera. And now I say, what do I do next? What would Father Ted tell me to do? What would my father, Bob Short, tell me to do next? What would God tell me to do? And I'm making that decision now. I don't know the answer, but I have all the tools from that day at the grotto with Father Ted. I want to thank all of you. I'm sorry if I was a little short, but as you can see, my grandkids call me Shorty. So anyway, I've got 4 children and 2 grandchildren. God bless you all. Thank you for coming to me many times.